The scene is set outside the security facility of Dragonstone Correctional. John Stanhope's black Mercedes drives up to the gate. The tinted windows wind down and he passes his security pass to a rather bored, flaccid-looking guard on post. The guard looks at his card incredulously. John impatiently waits as the guard seems to be on the phone. "I'm afraid this is out of date, sir." "What do you mean it's out of date?" "Well, do you know who I am?" John says rather impetuously. "Well, sir, it's not worth your job to keep me out." The security guard quickly raises the barrier and unlocks the chain. The car drives into the employee's car park. John gets out and starts limping towards the main facility, at which point he is met by the security protocol. They begin to pat him down and scan him. He puts some of his items in safe storage and is met by an officer. The officer is a tall gentleman, African by descent, quite handsome although very thuggish. "Excuse me, Mr. Stanhope." "Yes." "I'm afraid that due to security protocol you're going to have to see the managing director so we can get you a updated security pass." John sighs, wanting this to take less time and didn't want to go through the bureaucratic red tape. But he complies. John slowly limps through the main facility, accompanied by the young gentleman. John is taken aback at how the prison has changed. The architecture, just a small part of it. It seems much lighter, far less oppressive when Fell was in charge. He looks in through the thick bullet-proof windows into the main facility and the rec room, and is taken aback by the state of the prisoners here. They all seem to be gathering in large groups, far more intimidating than before. No longer the beaten, cowed expressions of people being corrected, as Mr. Fell used to say, but rather jovial. As the two walk past, John peers into one of the cells and sees that one of the prisoners is lying down on his bunk, very relaxed, as a guard knocks politely on the door, delivering a tray of fast food. The guard and the prisoner seem to be cordial, like old friends, or at the very least, John muses, like it's not really the guards running the place anymore. Soon they head up towards the admin side, the offices where the workers and staff make their living. And he soon enters into a corridor with a young receptionist. He's told to sit before being buzzed through to a rather Spartan office.
The office is very much, as can be seen here, very plain, with a very tasteless, tacky-looking landscape portrait hung over the desk. It does seem like the office of someone who doesn't spend an awful lot of time in the office. Definitely not the kind of office that one would think belongs to someone who and cares to spend a lot of their time doing this particular job. And the chair behind the desk remains empty. John also notes that there isn't a chair directly opposite the desk. Obviously, people who enter are kept standing, or perhaps the managing director may know something about John, given that you might want him to keep him standing, keep him uncomfortable with his bad leg. And I suppose the second option becomes more likely as the man who occupies this office makes his way out from behind an adjoining sort of ensuite bathroom, washing his hands and rubbing them together. He smiles, lifting something from behind a sort of screen, which turns out to be a golf club, and walks towards his chair, throwing himself grandly into it and swivelling as though this is the most comfortable chair that could possibly be sat on. And finally, after taking the maximum amount of pleasure from keeping this Ventrue waiting, leans forward in his chair. Mr. Stanhope, welcome back.
Mr. Dunstan, always a pleasure to see you again. Seems you have been very busy.
I've always got something on the go, don't I? Yes. I see you've decided to, and he looks over your shoulder. Ewan, noticing that the guard has stayed in his kind of position behind, looks at him. It seems that some of Fell's habits haven't quite been bred out of the guards yet. Eric, I think Don Luciano might need a back rub or something. Go. The big man just nods his head and takes a step back and closes the door, but as he's closing it, he keeps peering around it, suspiciously, not used to being sent away. You just can't get this staff, can you? Anyway, what can I, well, rather, how can I help you, Mr. Stanhope?
It seems to have been a muck-up in the bureaucratic department, Mr. Dunstan, nothing more. I came back to inspect the stock. The last batch coming from the prison was subpar at best, and I thought it's about time to get back into my old hobby. I have a few new ideas for some vintages, and making sure that my staff are aware of the changes.
Right. So you want me to help you somehow. I take it that, well, is there anything special you're looking for? I did once make this fantastic, well, do you remember when Rodrigo arrived and presented himself to Wolf, and he brought him a fantastic bottle of Vitae, so to speak, and it wasn't, of course, prepared, it was reasonably fresh, but a man like yourself knows a lot can be captured by, well, the way the person has lived, and we made sure that this particular guy was kept locked up very closely for a long time. It was interesting. We called it the taste of freedom because mere moments after being released from a 30-year solitary, this quite insane gentleman was, well, taken for a medical, shall we say. I do believe Wolf downed the entire bottle quite quickly, which may say more about him than, well, I ever could. But if your tastes are in the exotic, perhaps there's something we can do in the pre-preparation for your stores.
John looks at him impassively. Mr. Dunstan, I was under the impression, due to our contract, that I was allowed to maintain a steady Vitae supply and have access towards the medical facilities of this prison.
That was, Ewan stands up and walks round the table, and he takes your security pass and looks at it. That was a wee while ago, was that? Like, oh, right, okay. A contract, you say? I remember an agreement. Hmm. Well, I'll tell you what. I don't particularly have a problem with you farming blood for your luxury product, because it does, as you will recall. I remember the first time I met you at an Elysium hosted by Thomas Williams, arsehole of a man. So I thought, well, what's a good way to piss this guy off? And as you know, I'm very good at pissing people off. And Williams had a go at you. He docked your pay because it's some slight or other. I don't know. He was a little bit touchy because I turned up with a seneschal that night, and well, he, if you can remember correctly, said, "I'm going to dock your pay," and I said, "Oh, fuck, I'm going to pay for everything because this is fantastic." Now, I must admit that was partly to do with getting it right up Thomas Williams's arsehole, but at the same time, it was also because I've always appreciated your product, Mr. Stanhope, and for that reason, I see no reason to deprive not just my own taste buds, but the kindred community of it. So, okay, I will continue to support this endeavour, and you will, of course, remember that I am supporting this endeavour, that I am allowing this to go ahead.
I am very much aware of the situation, Mr. Dunsand. Mr. Fell entrusted the prison to you for a considerate amount of money, and I am here at your pleasure.
And what a pleasure it is. Still, if you had had the money, tell me, would you have sold the security company to me?
Well, it is a shame that the Ventru hold the security company, don't you think?
Not really, considering I sold it to them.
Ah, that's how we got it. I did think it was a little confusing. Oh well.
Yeah, do you honestly think I'd let Van Hoensbroek get his old fucking claws underneath me? The whole thing was paid for, mate. Best thing was, I didn't really need the security company, did I? Like, so, why bother with that bullshit? Plus, to be honest, that company was going nowhere. Private security here, I mean, it's all well and good for protecting your haven or something like that, but quite frankly, not many people in a downward spiral industrial city like this one could afford a luxury service like that. I've always imagined you to be someone who looks at least 2 or 3 moves ahead, which is why I've never really given you anything, Mr. Stanhope. Because you are a dangerous prick. Aye. And a lot of people are going to try to keep you on side by giving you stuff, aren't they? You know what? It's brilliant because you're me. You are me about a year ago. Just don't have the same kind of cash behind you that I did. But maybe, just maybe, if you do one day, oh, imagine what you could do with all of that ambition and the resources to back it, Mr. Stanhope. I had toyed with the idea of backing you at one point, but, well, it was much more interesting to watch you make the climb.
Nothing is worth having if you cannot make it yourself, Mr. Dunstan.
Absolutely. And of course, without especially knowing your story, I am guessing we both know what it's like to climb out of serious problems, serious shit, to dig your way up and kiss those boots and suck that cock to get where you have to go. And here you are now. It's perfect. It's almost perfect. Almost, but not quite. Almost.
There is still some time left to go.
A shame what happened to young Reb.
He grinds his teeth a little. Yes, no one can expect the actions of a madman.
I'm going to be honest with you, John. Reb Aronson and you are quite possibly the only two real political enemies I've ever had in this city.
I wouldn't call us enemies, Mr. Dunson. I haven't really focused my attention on you just yet.
I wonder why. All those little obstacles that were thrown in your path. You know, you might hate the Giovanni, and to be honest, I have more reason to hate them than you do. Unfortunately, I'm one of them. But you know, I hate to admit, in fact, no I don't, because it's a crass individual who cannot give credit where it's due. I am pleased to admit that hindering you has brought about great profit for me. You might have noticed everyone else seems eager to just give me all their shit.
Yes, a lot of people. You have a lot of people afraid, Mr. Dunson.
Afraid?
You are a man of intellect, ambition, and drive. They are not used to that. A lot of people, and especially kindred in the city, are fat and lazy and complacent, which makes gentlemen like yourself a threat. They'd rather have you on side than not, because they fear competition. I don't fear competition. I thrive on it.
That's because you have never, and every time he speaks, he jabs his finger at John and takes another step closer. He doesn't touch him, but he gets intimately close. You have never been handed a thing. Am I right?
John smiles wickedly.
Of course I'm right. Only people like us can ever truly run anything, because we're the only ones that have ever had to run. If you're born to leadership, you treat it like your first steps. Babies are born breathing. Do you know what I mean? And so they breathe for the rest of their life. Only some of us ever have to get on our feet and stand and walk and run. And only those who run can ever run anything. My family understands that. I think some Ventrue understand it. I was always taught to be wary of the Ventrue. Of course, in Scotland, it's not especially a big problem for us. You're all down south, ignoring our little freeholds up north. Or, well, Camarilla cities up north. But I think even Mithras and his friends understand the value of good, solid work.
You seem to be under a misapprehension, Mr. Dunson. I do not hate the Giovanni. My hatred is reserved for those who truly deserve it. I think you could be a true power if you let go of the voodoo and necromancy and concentrated on what really mattered, which is the business side. I believe that with a focused goal towards your clan, you can even give the Toreador or the Tribune a run for their money when it comes to influence.
Well, we all have our issues, don't we? Unfortunately, we're always on the outside looking in. Never the ones with the grand plan to take it all. I think we're a little bit too hasty, greedy. Well, nonetheless, I would not want to hinder your rise, Mr. Stanshope, because it has been a joy to watch from the sidelines, like a true Giovanni. Although, I wonder, having watched mine from relative obscurity to, well, the holiday I'm about to take.
Yeah, mate, it seems that everybody's leaving the city.
Oh, don't you worry about leaving the city. It's not a departure. Let's say it's a promotion.
Excellent. Well, it couldn't happen to a more deserving man. There was rumours in the Harpy network that the only reason you got all your power was for unfrocking a nun.
Ah, yes. Of course. One of my better moves. That one. And why not enjoy yourself while you're making it? You ever see her, Mr. Stanshope? Did you ever look at that woman? Appearance 5. Oh, and think to yourself, I wonder what that tastes like. It'll never cross your mind. Ewan's taking another couple of steps, inching his way. Would you like me to tell you?
I'm sure this is not the time nor the place for a locker room chat. I'm sure my own paramour would be most disappointed if I was to give away.
Propriety. Admirable. Still, and as his tone completely changes and the head of his golf club comes into view, if any of your harpies ever were to disparage Lady Cantor in my presence, they'll live forever.
John stiffens up when the golf club comes towards him. He's heard stories, and Ewan's own manic expression on that fateful night when Wolf was staked. And he doesn't step back, but he certainly leans back ever so slightly.
Now, business. Yes, blood. Fantastic, blood. We've got lots of that. You want some of it. We've got an agreement. No bother. That's fine. We can do blood. And I trust your product will be forthcoming to the Open Casket and the Venetian. Maybe better to send it to the Venetian. I don't think I've seen Rodrigo in the fucking donkeys. So, we might want to simply, maybe not move it through there, but, well, I'll tell you what. We'll do something with it, as per our agreement.
Excellent. Speaking of Rodrigo, I hope that the Giovanni are still going to be as generous with their shipments as they've always been.
What are you looking for?
Well, myself and Rodrigo had a little understanding that if he came across any particular blood from the old country, he would sell it to me first.
And
I would bottle it.
In what particular? This is not an agreement I've been made aware of. Therefore, I can assume it was private.
Apologies. I assumed you knew everything.
Everything worth knowing.
It is only a minor thing between two kindred. I suspect it fell under your radar. He was using the docking business. He, for some reason, had a vast quantity of blood, and I made it very aware to him that it would not sell in the city unless it had my label on it. So he supplies it, I bottle it. Obviously, I test it, and we both share the profits.
What was his cut?
What did I get him down to? 30%.
Of what? The total profit of your business?
Of the profit of the blood that he sold.
I see. And how exactly is that quantified? Or is that a matter for the retainers to work out?
Can you rephrase that? Sorry, I don't understand your meaning.
Well, you're saying 30% of the profits of what percent of your business?
Ah, well, I use that as the type C type blood. Stuff I haven't created myself, but fills in some of the Elysiums I'm not too fond of. The Arark Elysium, the Bruhar Elysium, etc., etc. It usually goes off to about, including that, man, around 15%. It doesn't sell that well.
Indeed. I'm sure it doesn't. Well, and the Anarchs are still buying from you, are they?
I haven't heard otherwise.
Enterprising lads, those boys. They'll do just about anything for perceived gain. Good lads.
Yes, well, as long as they're buying it and not stealing it.
Was that them? Well, they are unpredictable at times.
They are. It gives me a warm feeling that every single one who was involved with that is now dead.
Oh yes, every single one. And Ewan is going to roll manipulation subterfuge.
Okay. Can I do it? That's the question.
Keep yourself satisfied.
These people.
Grin off his face.
3, 4, 5.
Thankfully, he's quite good at this.
I'm not surprised.
Oh. 6 successes.
Yes.
I even have a speciality in subterfuge. I really should take one. So, I've not got one written down, so I'm not even going to bother. So, yep. He keeps the self-satisfied look off his face. Every single one. Efficient work, almost as good as mine. I'd have killed them and their families. I'd probably made them watch their families dying first. Or maybe I would have watched their families dying. Have you ever wondered what it's like to watch someone die, Mr. Stanhope?
He looks a little curious at you. What do you mean, wondered?
Ah, and what's your impressions of it?
Depends on the death entirely.
Oh no, really, like, have you ever, I'm not just talking about your personal sense of satisfaction in killing, I'm talking about observing death, Mr. Stanhope. That transition of alive and not. Have you ever tried to identify the moment when they cease to be there? When they step out of the skin?
It seems that you have me at a disadvantage, Miss Dunson. I suspect you're more an expert of that particular transition. My own training in the medical profession means we are trying to keep them alive. And in my profession for the vent room, alive long enough.
Ewan licks his fangs, and as he does this, a black vein creeps up his face, turns red and creeps up at his head, turns yellow and creeps down, then turns green and creeps back down the other side of his neck. There's so much to be gained in understanding the moment. Do you remember your embrace, Mr. Stanhope?
Not terribly, no.
Have you felt the beast inside you, Mr. Stanhope?
Who hasn't, Mr. Dunson?
And he leans in beyond intimacy now. He's like almost cheek to cheek. I haven't. I don't know the beast. I'm not aware of a beast. I don't even truly believe it's a thing. I think the beast is the last part of us that lives, trying to stay alive. And he takes his face away with a grin of devilish humour etched across his perfect features.
I didn't take you as a philosopher, Mr. Dunson.
Everyone who understands life is a philosopher in their own way. Or shall I say, even tries to understand life, and that makes us all philosophers, really. But there are few who delve so deeply into understanding life to the point where they understand the absence of life. Maybe the next time you have someone on the slab, you might take a moment to appreciate what it is you're taking from them. Because it's not just their blood, their life. And it's definitely not their soul, because I think you lack the proper teaching. But you're taking from them the opportunity to become the monster that you are. Because we who sit between life and death will always be dying, and dying is fear. Look at that stoic expression.
Are you saying, Mr. Dunson, that you're constantly afraid?
All the time. But at least I know why. And I don't pretend that it's not true. Because fear, anger, joy, passion, all of these things drive and push. And if you want to stand in front of me and tell me that that face that hides so much has nothing behind it, pushing you to be what you are, roll the dice, I'll call you a liar. Once you master the monster and master fear, then you're ready to be really kindred. Take the next step. And there's only one group of people that can really teach you about the truth of humanity, and that is a human being. And the human being becomes their true self only when you strip away all of the falsehoods, all of the lies. And the only time that happens is when they breathe their last breath, and then you see everything as it is.
I take it you read a lot of Sun Tzu?
Sun Tzu? Is that not a shoe shop? Shawlands? I might be wrong.
He was a warlord and believed himself a warrior philosopher. He said that you can live with a man, share every meal, speak on every subject, and never know him. But take him to the lip of the volcano and dangle him upon it. It is in those moments you will meet the true man.
It can be truthfully said that everything that can be said has been said by a Chinese man thousands and thousands of years ago. That prick. That patter-thieving bastard. If he was alive, and he might be. Well, if he is one of the Kuei-jin that my great-uncle is beating the utter shite out of as we speak, then I will be pleased to hear about it. But, nevertheless, yes, I suppose everyone has arrived at the same conclusion, just in a different way. Still, I distract myself. I've been reading too much. I really must stay away from that library. You know, I never leave that bloody manor.
So tell me, Mr. Dunsen, philosophy aside, the new dawn of New Sarum is coming. What of the Giovanni?
A new dawn, you say?
Well, new prince at least.
A new prince. New prince, same fucking court.
John can't help but suppress a smirk at that. We do what we can.
I'm sure you do, and so do I, and it seems I can do quite well. And I expect that's what we'll continue to do. Nonetheless, I don't understand any issues I have with the new regime. So I don't see any reason to fret. Of course, and the golf club switches hands to the right. If the new court was to legislate against me, even while I'm away, and I would find out, I would be put out by that, because my students are, well, like myself, very industrious and very good at what they do. And if anything were to happen to those promising young men, they might never become like you or like me, and then I would be very sad. And, well, that would, yeah.
Trust in the new generation, Mr. Dunsen. The court and myself have absolutely no intention to lock horns with you on what you've accumulated. If your charges decide to grow, then it's only fitting that they receive healthy competition. So, like us, they can appreciate what they gain.
Oh yes, give them healthy competition. That's the name of the game. That's how they'll learn. That's how they'll grow. And I hope they are able opponents, because I have taught them to be. Nevertheless, we will not be persecuted by anyone. Not by this new prince or any other, for what we have done in good faith and under the letter of the law, or the things the Camarilla have permitted. And yet, here we are.
Yes. I was wondering, Mr. Dunstone, this is an idea merely stewing in my brain. It hasn't really sort of formulated yet. What would the Giovanni say of a sort of exchange scheme? A little bit of allowance, a bit more freedoms within New Sarum for a small contingent or embassy of Camarilla in Boston. Would they think favourably upon that, just as a sign of good faith between our two organisations?
I understand there are already Camarilla in Boston, and the fact that we haven't killed them yet is good faith enough. I don't see a problem with people living in our city. Just like I live here. That's absolutely fine by me. But you know, I can't speak for Lisandro or Adamo. You might want to take it up directly with them, though it might be an interesting meeting. Having met both of them, they're not especially friendly.
Well, not everyone is given the ample opportunities to be the charming devil that Ewan Dunson is.
Well, we can't all be brought up in this unique fashion. Still, I detain you. Is there anything further?
No, I think we understand each other perfectly well, Mr. Dunson.
The shipments will carry on to the previously determined location unless you want to change it. And have Rodrigo's cut transferred to Magadon Health.
Magadon Health.
Yeah.
I cannot say I'm familiar.
It's a Pentec subsidiary. It's a family business.
Ah,
It's quite high level stuff. It's, you know.
odd. I thought I knew all of them in North Americas. Ah, well, something to research. I do enjoy learning.
Oh well, if it gives you some homework to do, you enjoy that. But there is a building in the business district where you can get the details, or Tracy at the desk might be able to sort you out.
Excellent, Mr. Dunson. And if the Giovanni wish to expand into further business, I know of a few promising Ventru that I believe are little protégés could perhaps help each other.
Well, do feel free to send them my way.
Oh, I think they're far too inexperienced to send your way, Mr. Dunson.
Well, when I say my way, you know, when you walk my way, you don't always reach me. You sometimes get stopped by someone else on the line of ass kicking that you have to go through to get to the big chair. As I well know, having had my ass kicked enough to get to this fucking chair, and finally standing up on the chair, get a leg up into the fucking attic. So, let you be the first to know I'm going to be in Venice for a while.
Well, congratulations on your promotion, Mr. Dunstan. Enjoy Venice.
Yes, I'll give Augustus your regards.
Excellent. Don't forget to visit. If you could pick up one of those festival masks, I'm sure Calliope will be thrilled.
Ah, the Carnival, yes. Have you ever been to Venice, Mr. Stanhope?
No, I've been to Florence on my request of my sire back in my neonate days.
I recently killed someone from Florence. Complete arsehole. But if Calliope is fond of Venetian culture, she should feel free to make her way there. I'm sure I can promise her safe passage. Enzo is a cumbersome fat prick, but he isn't unhospitable.
It'll be a marvellous holiday. Perhaps when the city's stabilised, we'll come and visit.
Oh, our city is stable. I must meet with her before I go. Do tell her I was looking for her. We have a lot to discuss.
I have mentioned.
Yeah.
You know what she's like.
Yes, yes. And yet, such a flower. Congratulations.
Well, I see you're a busy man.
Hmm.
Thank you for your understanding, Mr. Bunsen.
Oh, it takes a lot to disturb me, Mr. Stanhope. But I will bid you good evening.
And me. Good evening. And John will turn and leave.
Ewan watches him leave, the door closing. Sits back in his chair and swivels. Yes, that's it. Send your bird to Venice. Oh, fuck. I'm such a dick. Now then. And he stands up and walks back into the bathroom. And the scene will end.